From the Watergate building in Washington, this is Hotline TV. Now, here's Hotline editor, John Mercurio.
Happy Friday, I'm Amy Walter.
And I'm John Mercurio. Welcome to Hotline TV. All right, let's start with what everybody wants to be talking about right now. Senator David Vitter. Just last year, Vitter, a father of 4, told the New Orleans Times-Picayune that infidelity, divorce, and deadbeat dads are a threat to traditional families. We can get into more of the hypocrisy later, but for now, let's talk about the political fallout of his acknowledgement that he has done some business with some different ladies of the night.
Of a different kind of business.
Correct.
All right. How about we just put it out here? Nothing's going to happen. How about, I know, but political fallout, I know we want it to happen. It is our summer treat, and so if this thing keeps going, it is great. But let's remember, we're talking about Louisiana. We're talking about the same place where Bill Jefferson, with the threat, he had 90 grand in the freezer, and he won. Stop touching me.
I'm
keeping this.
I think that the Bill Jefferson analogy is flawed. It is flawed, and let me tell you why you're wrong. That's a Chuck Toddism. Let me tell you why you're wrong.
Yes.
Look, I mean, Bill Jefferson got his base to rally around him because he was an African American who was being targeted by the federal government. He got people to say, look, it's us against them. You all need to support me because we've suffered so much. We suffered under Katrina. We're suffering now because they're trying to target me. David Vitter is a social conservative who's disappointing his own base in this sort of situation. I agree with you. I think he survives the situation.
That's a good point. But is it still an issue?
Well, he's statewide.
He's not up for re-election. Right. So first of all, he's not up for re-election. So I would give you that point if the election were this year. Now, the question is he more like Hutchinson, remember, in Arkansas? Who did. So maybe that is the one that we compare him to. So let's not do a Louisiana reference. Let's instead do an Arkansas reference, which was it took him so very long
to
try to get that right. First-term senator trying to get that allegiance back after the well-known problems he had in his marriage.
Correct.
Obviously, not enough.
Not enough. I mean, this is just the beginning of this little scandal. We'll see what happens. We'll see how far it goes. We'll see where Larry Flint's nose takes him over the next couple of days or weeks. I know, it was kind of a gross analogy.
I don't want to think about where his nose has been.
But God, it's good to have a little summer scandal just to pay a little bit of attention to.
Yeah. All right. Well, so we'll keep watching. I do not doubt that there may be more shoes dropping. The idea, though, that there's going to be resignation. I mean, when we hear about Treen's name being bandied about as a potential replacement, that makes me a little skeptical. I mean, the guy's like 116 years old or something. He's been running for a million times. I mean, if you're Democrats here, like, this is perfect. Let's make sure that he's in place, and we'll.
But if liberals or the Larry Flint wing of whatever party he's a part of were looking for a target to put their their sexual hypocrisy issue on, David Vitter could not have been a more perfect victim on their part. Look, this is a guy who wrote letters to the editor of the New Orleans Times-Picayune about how Clinton should be impeached, even if he didn't commit a crime, because he could no longer be the, quote, moral leader of the United States. And that was enough, in his mind, to impeach a president of the United States. He's also somebody who, who stood up on the floor last year and defended traditional marriage, made a big point about how the sanctity of marriage is the cornerstone, the most important cornerstone in human civilization. And obviously now he has a sort of a different view, or he had a different view on that institution.
Okay, but let's now. I was all excited because I had this great point to make about that, and now I've forgotten it. But that
happens on live TV. That happens on live to tape TV.
That there is a point that I wanted to make somehow, some way.
Take your time.
About this. Damn you! I was all right there. All right. Well.
All right.
All right. Well, if things don't work out for Vitter, he won't be the only one claiming unemployment, because me.
Yeah.
But actually, it's not about me. It's about John McCain, who got rid of most of his campaign staff, including campaign manager Terry Nelson, chief strategist John Weaver. Now, McCain isn't the first candidate to part ways with senior staff. Today, we're going to pick out some similarities in a new segment we're calling, and it's very, very, very fancy. Creative staff shakeup.
Have you seen staff shakeups?
Have you seen me?
We're working on the graphics. There's going to be this long, big, sophisticated graphics.
But for right now, we'd like to go. We like old school.
We do.
Like going through here. So, those of you who can't see this, right now we're going to compare today's shakeups with shakeups of old.
Indeed.
All right. So, where do you want to start? You want to pick somebody from there, or you want to pick someone from up here?
Yeah, I'm going to go. Wow, that is a really bad picture of John McCain. I mean, he's had a tough week. It's too bad we couldn't find a more flattering picture of John McCain. I'm going to start at the bottom because I am increasingly confident that Fred Thompson will be the Wes Clark of 2008. There, I've said it on air. People, you can write your letters, you can send your emails. It's so
so clear to me. Yep.
It's increasingly clear to me. We'll see how he actually campaigns, but the fact that he's postponing his kickoff, the fact that little stories are starting to come out about him, the fact that there doesn't seem to be the fire in the belly that he'll need to win not just the primary but the general election, I think. That's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm seeing more and more. So that's
no, I could not agree with you more. I mean, I think this is a guy who, again, we had been talking about this for so long. You build up this expectation for so long, and at some point you got to live up. The longer that you wait, the bigger the hype gets, and the harder it is to live up to it. And the more stories, these lobbying stories, he's been able to survive. But when the stories come out about he's not doing as well fundraising as we thought he would, he's not a particularly strong campaigner. Is he going to be able to match up against the Democratic nominee in a debate? All of those things, that's going to be a real problem for him. So couldn't agree more. All right, who else should we take? All right, so let's look here. The Terry Nelson, former campaign manager for John McCain.
With a fashionable pair of eyewear.
Very fashionable. In fact, he's been looking very good lately. He lost a lot of weight in between campaigns.
Weight, sure.
He's looking good. Jim Jordan.
Jim Jordan, sure.
Yes, well-known first manager for the John Kerry campaign, was then replaced here by Mary Beth Cahill.
Who I think can go down here with Rick Davis.
Oh yeah.
If you don't mind.
No, I don't mind. I don't mind. Although it's hard to compare. Actually, I'm going to use somebody else because she came truly from the outside. Remember, they brought people like Mary Beth in. What we thought they were going to do is just simply bury the campaign, right? They were going to come in to try to keep it on course, but the bottom line was most people thought that it was sort of over.
Right.
In this case, Rick Davis is the guy who's been behind the snes with McCain forever, and they see him as the guy who's going to come get it. Now, the difference here is, look, yes, both of them came in, not really as mercenaries, but, they were paid campaign staff, didn't come with the loyalty to the particular candidate.
True that.
The difference here, of course, is that, it's not just Jim Jordan leaving, and it's not just Terry Nelson leaving, it's an entire infrastructure that's gone. Already they laid off so many people because of budget problems before Terry left. Now we see that in New Hampshire, in Iowa. Pretty much that infrastructure is gone.
The Nevada staff is gone.
Michigan is falling apart. So we leave it there.
Right, you're seeing sort of a ripple effect beyond just the Terry Nelson that you didn't necessarily see the same way with Jordan. But Jordan lived to fight another day. I'm sure Terry Nelson will as well.
Be fine.
Absolutely. Because just like you said, they're mercenaries who were brought in from the outside, so it's not as though their entire political identification is connected with that one candidate.
True.
This is kind of unfair, and I do apologize to the senator who's had a particularly bad week, but this is the only real option I have here. It's difficult to keep a staff sometimes, and in that way alone, I will compare John McCain to Katherine Harris.
Yeah, and we didn't even get, let's move on very, very quickly. So where do we put Joe Trippi? That's the question. I mean, I think there's some people who are comparing him with Weaver, right? Saying, here's a guy who came in, he got a whole lot of press, he was the wonder kid, he's the person who put him on the map, and yet when things started to fall apart, this is who took the blame, spending money like drunken soldiers, not an disciplined candidate, and that's what Weaver's starting to fit into that same category as well.
And there's no David Vitter category over here, so I wouldn't be able to come up with a Dick Morris analogy. But just imagine that David Vitter is sort of over there, down there, and you can just imagine where he would be. Oh, if only McCain could fire Iraq from his campaign. News accounts of the war this week focused on Bush's fading support among Senate Republicans. But what about Democrats? With Hillary realigning herself with the majority of Democrats in her Iowa speech earlier this week, have Obama and Edwards sort of maxed out on traction from the issue of the war in Iraq?
I mean, we've been hearing about this now from the very beginning of the campaign, which is Hillary's going to have a problem with the liberal base because of Iraq. They don't trust her. It's going to be the #1 issue. And yet, it's been out there for, how many months and weeks, and the bottom line is there is no movement in the polling. It's her support
is movement in the polling. At least if you look at the national polling, she's increasing her lead or her base over Obama.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's not. They both have sort of his upward trajectory has pretty much stalled. She was having something of a downward slant. It's now gone at least flat or a little bit up. But the bottom line is, it's sort of done, been there. Voters are looking for both of those candidates, something that Hillary has that the two of them don't, which is, how do we know that the kind of candidate they're going to be in a general election? Do they have the experience? Do they have the track record? And I don't think that is a bigger concern for them than how many different ways they can parse their differences on Iraq. And
that's the problem. I mean, I got to give a shout out to Con Carroll, the Hotline's blogometer guru. Look, he made a very important point today, which is that a lot of the liberal base, a lot of the sort of liberal blogosphere, is wringing their hands over the fact that they haven't been able to get enough of a wedge between Hillary and the rest of the Democratic candidates, that she has succeeded so far in sort of minimizing the differences between between her and the rest of the campaign, with the rest of the candidates. Right. And it's their responsibility in some ways to make that distinction, but it's actually the responsibility of the candidates. And she was at the debate last month, the CNN debate in June, early June, where she actually said the differences between the Democratic candidates are minor, the differences between us and the Republicans are major. Let's never lose sight of that fact. And Edwards and Obama stood silently by as she made that important, very strategically important point for her campaign, and let her get away with it. Look, if ultimately the Democratic candidates are unable to sort of counter that argument, then I don't really see how they win. Well, if Obama is unable to say, there is a huge difference between me and Hillary Clinton. She has the organization, the infrastructure. She doesn't have the fundraising lead, but she's certainly got so many strengths that I find it increasingly difficult to see how he comes out. Well,
and the more that the war is, the more that you see the war in at the center of the political universe, the Republicans continuing to splinter and the talk about defections, I mean, the more obvious it becomes that nobody is supporting the war right now, and that it all sounds like a lot of white noise in the end. And fundamentally, I think that Democrats still looking for, okay, we get it. Nobody's happy with the direction of the war. Nobody has a perfect plan either, but it's no longer as sharp of a contrast as it was a year or 2 years ago.
Right. So, well, the other question, though, and we were talking about this earlier, is that what happens if by 2008, by late November of 2008, the issue that we're talking about, that we've been talking about for the past year and a half, which is of course Iraq, is no longer one of the top 2 or 3 priorities of the voters going into the election booths. Look, if that's the case, what do Democrats run on? Right. I mean, obviously, it's a long shot. It's a long shot that we're not still talking about the fallout from this war and the country's place in the world and how it's been affected by the past 5 years. But if that's the case, it becomes a very, very different campaign.
Indeed. Well, speaking of issues Democrats can't differentiate themselves on, Democratic candidates will gather next month for the first ever White House forum devoted to issues of interest to gay voters. But with no one taking a stand on gay marriage, adoption, gays in the military, or any differences really, what kind of debate will this be?
Will this be? Well, it's not actually going to be
a debate. Right?
It'll be a forum. It'll be a lot like.
Is it a sing-off? Because Melissa Etheridge is there. So are they singing along with her?
Come to my window. There will be a lot of
Indigo Girls are there as well.
It'll be interesting to see what the whole panel looks like. It's going to be Melissa Etheridge and the president of HRC, Joe Salmonese. But I assume it'll be a larger panel. The other people who'll be participating, maybe you or me. We'll see. Hire us. Hire us. We'd love to be there. No, but look, it's going to be a forum. There's not going to be a lot of interaction between I think the 8 candidates who have all sort of signed on to do this. But what I think you're seeing actually with the HRC logo debate and the Howard University debate a couple of weeks ago and other forums that the Democrats are agreeing to participate in is that you're seeing the Democratic Party sort of cater, I'm not going to say pander, but cater to their individual interest groups in a way that the Republicans refuse to do. The Republicans refusing to show up to a lot of these sort of special interest groups that are inviting them to organize these forums. And it's interesting the level to which the Democrats are willing to do that. The Republicans
But are Democrats going to any Republican-centered events?
No, no, absolutely not.
So, I mean, obviously, it's primary time, and that means pandering time to your base, but does it do a candidate any good to try to go and show their bipartisanship, or does that really just undermine them with the party's base? Is that the issue,
absolutely.
Or is it something more?
No, I think that's obviously true. I mean, Republicans catering to the conservative base, Democrats to the liberals, but where are the conservative groups that are organizing the forums for the Republicans. You see fewer of those than you do, the gay rights groups or the African Americans at Howard University, or I'm trying to think of other examples right now.
Well, there's labor.
There's the labor group. There was the SEIU.
Right.
There was the So to a large extent, you're seeing the Democratic Party for what it is, which is sort of a party, a coalition based of several different interest groups.
Right.
For better or worse.
Better or for worse. So is this a good idea for Democrats if they're trying to shed this image of being sort of coastal elites to go fly to Hollywood,
right.
talk with the gays about
that
issues?
That is a very good question, and that's the challenge, I think, for them. And I think you talk to some of these campaigns, they're a little bit nervous about this forum. It's sort of an untested organization in terms of holding this sort of high-profile event. It's not going to be televised. It's going to be on Logo, which is not really available to that many people in terms of cable subscribers. It'll probably be it'll probably receive relatively small exposure in terms of immediate live right. Television coverage. And I think to some Democrats in the campaign, that's probably a good thing. But we'll see. We'll see what kind of event it turns out to be. We'll see, how people like John Edwards are received. He obviously was, got a lot of press a couple of weeks ago for, in Bob Shrum's book, having said that he was uncomfortable around those people. Right. We'll see how he's received. We'll see how Bill Richardson is received. Hillary, of course, going to. So it'll be interesting.
All right. Well, that's it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm out of breath. And that's all the time we have for today. I just blew a lot of hot air, but please join us next time on Hotline TV.
Do we have the oxygen tank anywhere? Here, I need some.